Hare Krishna. Greetings from the Super Soul Farm in what's been known now as my room. Okay. I don't have like a set curriculum. I called it Japa School. And but I have a basic idea, and I even have a basic idea that maybe one time the class will just be that we all chant together. But I have a basic format, and one is we'll work first on deep faith by just hearing a purport of the Bhagavatam and a verse on the holy name. And I've already explained how important that is, that it's our faith in the truth, our conviction in the truth of some proposition that allows us to act on it. And one of the ways, of course, I always mention faith is trust by experience, but I also mention that it's also faith in something being true because we have faith in the Shastra. We have faith in the Shastra because we have lived our life according to the Shastra, and we've seen how true that is. Just look at our lives. Where would we be without the teachings and convictions and the understandings? I always walk down New York City and I see what's the difference between me and other people and devotees and other people, not just Krishna devotees, but people in a spiritual tradition, is they have knowledge. And look what happens when people don't have knowledge, what they have faith in and what they do. They're defeated because they're doing the very things that have caused them the misery that they're trying to counteract by what they're doing. So we'll always begin with a verse, and then I'll share my realization. One thing the class will be is, because I have time to chant and I'm working on chanting, sometimes I have realizations about chanting, or I see something that I can share, and I'll do that. And then we'll go over my template of deep this, deep that, deep this, deep that. And then I'll concentrate on one of the aspects. I'm inspired this week about deep life, and I'm also inspired about deep mercy, and also by deep work. I have something to say about those. And then we'll chant together. And I really appreciate the people that are coming on this class. I know some people will listen to it later. Not everybody can be here on time. But I appreciate, because it indicates there's some seriousness about Krishna consciousness. And it's based on the holy name. And we just can't go on our lives without instruction, without guidance, without inspiration. And the effect will be there. And sometimes the effect is not felt immediately. It's just like if you poison someone for the first 10 minutes, they may be just like they were. But if you know the poison is entered, it'll have an effect. So we've been in this material world since time immemorial, and we've already seen the effect of Krishna consciousness in our improved lives. And we can meditate what we would be like without this knowledge. So we have faith. Okay, so I picked out this verse. It's Bhagavatam 11:5-36. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kaliṁ sabhājayanty āryā guṇa sāra-bhāginaḥ saṅkīrtanenaiva sarva-svārtho bhilabhyate. Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. I'll read that again. Those who are advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. Such enlightened persons worship Kali-yuga because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of saṅkīrtana, So kaliṁ, in this age of Kali, sabhājayanty, āryā means like Aryan, progressive people, sabhājayanty, the progressive people, they praise this age of Kali because guṇa, they know the guṇa, they know guṇa, they know the quality of this age. And sāra-bhāginaḥ, they are the sara, the essence, they're able to pick out the essence of this age. And what is that? Yatra saṅkīrtanenaiva, by chanting. Then svārtho, artha means wealth or value, svārtho, your own wealth or value. Bhilabhyate, can be obtained. Eva, sarva, all your desired goals can be obtained by saṅkīrtana. And I'll just read part of the purport. It is said that among the four ages, Satyayuga, Tretayuga, Dwapara, and Kali, Kali-yuga is actually the best, because in this age, the Lord mercifully distributes the highest perfection of consciousness, namely Krishna consciousness, very freely. The word āryā has been defined by Śrīla Prabhupada as one who is advanced spiritually. The nature of an advanced person is to search for the essence of life. For example, the essence of the material body is not the body itself, but the spirit soul that is within the body. Therefore, an intelligent person gives more attention to the eternal spirit soul than to the temporary body. Similarly, although Kali-yuga is considered to be an ocean of contamination, there is an ocean of good fortune in Kali-yuga, namely the saṅkīrtana movement. In other words, all the degraded qualities of this age are completely counteracted by the process of chanting the holy names of the Lord. And it's a long purport, and you could read the rest of that purport. But I really, when I saw this verse, I was looking for verses on the Hare Krishna mantra, and then I forgot one website had them, and I looked at this one. Āryā, those who are progressive, sabhājayanty, they praise Kali, the age. Why do they praise it? Guṇa. They know the guṇa or quality of this age. Sāra-bhāginaḥ, they're able to pick out the sara, the essence of this age. And what is that? Saṅkīrtanenaiva, merely saṅkīrtana, only by kirtan. Sarva-svārtho, all desired goals can be obtained. I have faith in that, and that's why I chant Hare Krishna. And that's why, as I am getting as I am getting older, it's become more and more important to me. And that was one of my realizations, chanting, because, and I'm sharing my realizations chanting because I want to chant more, but then I'm thinking, well, what am I accomplishing? There's so many things I can do. That's called fruitive activities. So what am I actually accomplishing? Well, what is the goal of everything we do? It is to transform. What's the goal of the Hare Krishna movement? It's to transform people's consciousness. Our antakaranam, our eternal, our mind, intelligence, ego, our chitta, our consciousness, the whole thing, changing that identity. That's the goal. And to do that, we have to, first we have to change ourselves. We have to change ourselves. Then we can really change others. And we see that, how our inability is to influence others in Krishna consciousness to the extent we want, because we don't have the compassion to do so, because we ourselves are not tasting the holy name, not changing that internal consciousness. So when I'm chanting, I think, yes, this is the most important thing. This is the goal of the Hare Krishna movement. So why not sit down and focus on that holy name and give the time and the place to that consciousness, and don't get into that illusory consciousness that I'm not doing anything. And of course, you're praying for service, and if service overwhelms your day, fine. But let it be service. And if it's not service, let it be the holy name. Okay. So now some kind of a realization in a question someone asked me. They wanted to chant. It was during the day, and they wanted to chant Hare Krishna, but they wanted to learn verses at the same time, inspirational verses. And they want my kind of opinion on that. And I once met this really sadhu, and this sadhu used to chant from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. every single day for as long as anyone can remember. So somehow I was on Parikram, and the person on Parikram knew him and said, why don't you go see him? I was already in that place. So I went to see him. I thought, okay, I'll ask him a question. I said, can I chant and think of Krishna's pastimes at the same time? And you have to understand, when someone's advanced and they're scholarly, their answers are very balanced. But initially he said, well, you know, Krishna's appearing in the holy name, and you don't want to be inattentive, because that's an offense. And then he began chanting, and then after a while he said, you can try a little. And I understood this. There was also another thing. There Mara of Wisdom of the Sages. I'm giving class here every day at Super Soul. I'm having a lot of fun every evening. There's at least 4 people there, usually 6. Rasi Govinda's with me, Mallory and Mara. So that's 4. Raghunath comes every day, maybe a little bit late, and Mara comes every day. Oh, and Tom. Tom is a young man here. He's 18. He's helping out. And then Mara and Raghunath will come. So I was speaking to Pradyumna, and I don't know how it came up, but he said that Prabhupada knew how to knit. It's like, what? There's things about Prabhupada that come up that they may come up once they may be lost forever, because only he was there and he was talking to Prabhupada. He was talking to one god sister who was talking to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada saw her knitting and said, I also know how to knit. My grandmother taught me. So Mara was knitting, so I told the story. She's very enlivened. And she said, when I knit, my concentration is more. I said, well, how is that? And she said something very interesting. She said that my mind is fixed on that. So if when I'm listening to class, I'm listening and automatically knitting, people think that I'm being inattentive. But if my mind wanders, it just goes to this. So it kind of keeps it in the parameters. And that's always the test. The test is if what you're doing makes the concentration on the holy name more. And there is something about, like, I think Jai Kishori sent something from Śrīla Swami last week where you can meditate, you're in Vrindavan. You can meditate, you're in Vrindavan. So does that distract you from the holy name? But no, if you're chanting the holy name and that you couch your mind in that kind of mood, if your mind wanders, it'll go to something that'll inspire you to chant. So it's not unheard of for someone. It's called mantra upasana. Mantra upasana is, there are verses that paint the picture of Krishna. That's called mantra upasana. And then there's swadasiki, which means there are kind of verses that can expand into kind of like a movie. It's like an action. But mantra upasana, they're supposed to be meditated on. And so some people do that. They chant a verse which gives a picture of Krishna, and they have that kind of context while they're chanting. I always try to go someplace in my mind, at least to go someplace with someone. Some spiritual conception in my mind that gives this activity some relevance. I'll just share today. It's one of the things I was going to share is every time you go to a place, there's kind of a new schedule because you got to adjust. So generally I was doing my deity worship right in the morning. And then while the food was being offered, I was offering my prayers. But this was a little bit different. I would get up and I would write and then I would chant, but I didn't really say my prayers. And prayers means to the Guru, parampara. And, I said one āryā before each round. That was my inspiration. And I chanted especially for Prabhupada, Nama Shreshtam. The holy name is, the best thing is the holy name. Nama Shreshtam, Manum Api, Sachi Putram, Atra Sarupam, Rupam, Tasyagrajam, Uruparim, Mathura, Goshtavatim, Radha Kundam, Girivaramaho, Radhika Madhavasam. Prapta Yasya, Pratita Sri Guru Tamdatos. You're offering thanks to the Guru who gives you all these things, but what's the best thing? Nama Shreshtam. So each round, at least I had a conception in mind, something, this wild mind, to keep it in the confines. And, you can't give a japa class because some people may have so much love for Krishna, they can just chant the holy name and be in ecstasy. I try just when I get up just to chant and just to hear. And sometimes to help me, I use various things. So today I felt like that. And when I was meditating on an āryā, I was chanting and begging for their mercy for the holy name. I had that conception. It wasn't prominent. I wasn't focused. I had that conception in the back of my mind that I'm praying to this āryā for the mercy of the holy name. So that was my realization between thoughts in the mind, and the main thing is attentiveness to the holy name, but our mind can wander to so many problems, so many activities, so many desires, and this kind of couches it from going there to our problems, to our desires, to our work, to our burdens. So some conception for the mind, some conception for the intelligence, some conception for identity, some conception that, and that's always done. Like when you do deity worship, there's Bhuta Shuddhi, there's you purify yourself first. And that's why I think I'm talking about deep mercy now. Why I think it's important to say some prayers before you chant, to fix the intelligence in the mind and maybe the heart or the ego in what you're doing and why you're doing it. And not just intellectually, because when you chant prayers, and I chant it very slowly now, since Krishna gave that class in Puri on passage meditation. I chant it very slowly, just to, what is my consciousness? We can chant in so many different consciousness. We can chant in offense, we can chant in attentive, we can chant. So there is there is something. Bhakti Siddhanta said, we shouldn't just chant lip deep, it should be heart deep. So adding the heart, adding the conception to the holy name by maybe chanting some prayers, or adding that humility, because when you chant prayers, you're begging for mercy, and entering into your chanting in that way. And then concentrating, perhaps chanting from the heart. Okay, so now I'm going to go over the my template. It's always good to remind. But I have to say, it was so nice just sitting and chanting, trying to hear the holy name, feeling so grateful, begging for mercy. So deep life, I may say something more about that today, but I'll save that for the end. Deep life, deep faith. And again, that faith comes from hearing the Shastra and the experience comes from the effort. Your faith in chanting should be more after 4 rounds than it is after 1 round. It should be more after 8 rounds than it is for 4 rounds. It should be more after 12 rounds than it is for 8 rounds. So if that faith, if that conviction, if that importance is not prominent immediately and right where you are, then just keep on going. Because when you have that faith, that conviction by the experience, then to chant one mantra with that conception that this is God, this is Krishna, this is the Yuga Dharma, this is the highest activity. This is why Kali-yuga is the best age. And we've gotten this gift. That verse, Nama Shreshtam, it's specifically talking about the gifts that the Guru Parampara through the spiritual master gives us. Nama Shreshtam, the best thing, the holy name. Then deep time. Can't stress that. Can't stress the importance of that enough. Of having a time for chanting exclusively reserved. I mention this every class, but I should mention it in every class. Regulation means a date with Krishna, a time reserved for Krishna. And if you share Krishna with other things, it won't be pleasing to Krishna, nor will you be able to devote your consciousness to Krishna. See, for me, my day is always the same. I have no obligations and no responsibilities. So it doesn't matter to me if it's 12 o'clock or it's 4 o'clock in the morning in one sense. Because there's no competing activities. I'm going to be 73. It's retired life. That's what it is. But still, as the day goes on, there's more competing activities. The morning is the best, and specifically a time, a space, sacred space. I explained that many times. I'm not going to explain it again. So deep life, deep faith, deep space, deep time, deep space, deep mercy. That's why I was stressing how prayers are so important. Prabhupada say the process of chanting and reading. And then we go back to God by chanting and reading, to have some conceptions, to have some idea. In that regard, I've been speaking to, I'm going to mention this now, I've been speaking to a Kinshana Krishna, and I think he's really onto something in terms of learning prayers and how to learn prayers and adding them to your spiritual life. So I've encouraged him, and he's going to make a course. I think he's really a smart guy, and I think he's going to do it in a really nice way. He's going to make a course where you could learn Sharanagati. Those are the prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And what a resource. What a resource that will be. That you can have those prayers in your mind. I see here, even with Raghunath, he likes to learn Braj Bhajans. And I see how it helps him, because he can sing them when he's moving. It's very, very helpful. And Jamuna Devi, this is what she would do in Sharanagati. They would chant the prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And the mood of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the conceptions of Bhaktivinoda Thakur will be transferred in those prayers. So what I think I'm going to do, the class after next, I'll give the class, but I'll have him give an introduction to it. And then I will encourage you all to take his course. And he's doing it in a Brahminical way. But at the end, if people would like to give a donation, that would be helpful, because now he's just fully preaching Krishna consciousness. So I myself will take the course, because first of all, it's going to be a course where you'll get an assignment and you can memorize a verse. He'll show you techniques how to memorize it. I don't think they'll check on you, but people will share their realizations. I believe he's putting his heart in it in a way that it'll be very, very dynamic. So I'm going to myself take the course because I really would like to learn some of these things of Sharanagati. I don't know if he'll give like a verse a day. That's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, a verse a week or something. I know when he gave his passage meditation course in Puri that Jai Jagannath really loved it. I really liked it too. Okay, deep mercy, deep work. That was my realization also. I was sitting down in the morning, straight, healthy, concentrated, and determined to put in the work. Because of my faith. Because of my faith. That this is the best thing. That's what faith is. It is so good that I will be with these people. Faith will increase. It is so good I will adopt the practices. It is so good. This is faith that I will give up those things that are of no value to it. It is so good I will be fixed in it. I will do it all the time. So at least I had that faith. Have that faith. And I have to say, not every day, depending what your dreams, you don't wake up with that faith. You may wake up on the other side of the bed, as they say. So sometimes you have to put you. And then, of course, the goal is deep taste, which comes from nishta. And we should never forget it. The taste of chanting comes from nishta. Just as the taste of water, rasaham apsu konteya, the taste of water comes from water when it's not mixed with anything else. When water is just water, it's taste. When bhakti is just bhakti, it's taste. So the whole purpose of this is to give you taste. Is to give you taste by helping you become fixed. Now, just going to say something, and then we'll chant together about deep life. Where's that Bhakti Labhya? Yeah, give me that. I read something by Bhaktivinoda Thakur that struck the fear of God in me. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. He's commenting on the second verse of Upadeshamrita, which describe the 6 faults that destroy bhakti. Atyahara, payasascha, pajalpo niyamagraha, janashangas, talodam cha, shadbhir bhakti vinashyati. Bhakti, these destroy bhakti. These are the things that destroy bhakti. And when does chanting have taste? When can you kirtaniya siddhahari? When can you do it always? When you have taste. And what is that taste? Love, bhakti. An activity which you do with bhakti, you can always do. Kirtaniya siddhahari, kirtaniya, you can always do. I once walked in to Prabhupada's godbrother, Bhakti Bhai Bhabpuri, about 8:30 in the morning. He was having a program. And he has an ashram right across from Seva Kunj. And he was a godbrother that was particularly favored by Prabhupada because of his preaching spirit. And I remember I walked in, he had just finished his chanting, and he looked up to me and he said, in a voice, and I remember how he said it, Kirtaniya siddhahari, Kirtaniya siddhahari. He was, let's chant always. But this is the 2 sentences For anyone who wants to engage in pure devotional service, it is especially necessary to follow the instruction of this verse. For one who neglects to follow these instructions, attaining devotion to Lord Hari is extremely rare. If you don't follow these instructions, it's extremely rare. And that's what we need ultimately. We can have so many techniques and they help us, no doubt. But ultimately what we need is bhakti. And these are the things that destroy bhakti. Therefore, I say the first principle is deep in life. So I'll be giving class on this every day here. And there's a basic principle is in your life, everything has to be for Krishna. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very balanced. So he said, how can everything in our life be for Krishna is if without sense enjoyment, the body dies. This is what he says. Without enjoying the senses, the living entity cannot survive. As soon as the living entity gives up sense enjoyment, he leaves the body. So therefore, it's atyahara. It's not just against enjoyment, it's against excessive enjoyment. It's against enjoyment that is not connected to Krishna. For example, many women may feel they have to dress nicely. That's not too much for them. That's part of their psychophysical nature. But if they start having, 30 pairs of shoes, and like my mother and my father, both my mother and father, my father prided himself in his dress. He was known as a good dresser. It was okay. But you look in their closets, it was like too much. I have too many things. I have too many of my, I'll put a little humor in here. I have too many of my shmatas. Shmatas is Yiddish for rag. It's what my mother, it's for clothes. It's rag, but it's what clothes are called in Yiddish when they're disheveled. So when my mother first saw my robe, she said, why are you wearing those shmatas? So I have closets full of shmatas. Atyahara. So the whole Krishna consciousness, it's so beautifully, he says, no, we have our needs, but what's the secret? The secret is our needs are connected to our goal. And how are needs connected to our goal? When we have a need, it's connected to our goal. When it's above what we need. So therefore, that verse in the Bhagavatam, kamesya nendriya priti labho jivete yavataha. Kamesya nendriya priti. And I'm quoting this verse because it's so profound. Because the Bhagavatam asks that question. What about sense gratification? Because the Bhagavatam also knows this point. If you don't have sense gratification, the body dies. So what about sense gratification, karma? So the Bhagavatam answers it, kamesya nendriya priti, priti love, nendriya, indriya the senses, nendriya, it's not for love of the senses. You should enjoy, but not for love of the senses. Labho jiveta, you should enjoy because you need it. And you take what you need. So this struck the fear in me, because you start looking around your life and you see the things you take above your need, even though Krishna consciousness is not renunciation. And it's such a generous philosophy that includes so much of our enjoyment and our needs. I'll embarrass to be sitting here. Rasi Govinda has been cooking lunch for us, whatever community is here. I invited, Parmananda came over yesterday. And that hot banana bread that came out of the oven perfectly, we couldn't believe it. It was like within 1 second of perfection. So we get together with Vaishnavas and we take Krishna prasadam. We take what we need. Also, I'm studying the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. There's a very rich Brahmin who's a great devotee, and Narada Muni is glorifying him. It's not that you don't have wealth, but you don't endeavor for it. It comes. And if the wealth comes, you live according to your means and you use it for Krishna. Or if you're a woman and you have some certain needs, people need houses, they may need to dress nicely, more than men, I think, or many women, I would say that. It's not, but we know. Therefore, it says one of the offenses against the holy name, to maintain material attachment, despite. And then when you hear that, to maintain material attachment, that's an offense to the holy name? I love my kid, I love this, I love pizza. Is that an offense to the holy name because I'm Italian and I like pasta? No, but it means above, and we know that. So I'm just describing that this maybe every day, every class, I kind of add things I could add. I'll just add atyahara today. Atihara. Hara is eating, but it's not just eating, it's too much. And anyway, we're on a process. We don't start at perfection. It's not that we're doomed. But when we have that goal, when I sit and I chant the holy name, and I know that this is I'm getting older. I have to perfect this. And then you start to see your life in relationship to that goal. And you work towards that. And you move towards that. And you beg for mercy. Okay, now what we will do, I think we'll chant like we did last time. People seem to appreciate that. It's not how I usually chant, but we'll focus on this aspect, and I'll explain it, that we don't hear unless the consciousness gets connected to the sense. We don't experience things generally on the sensual platform unless the consciousness. So if there's hearing, we won't hear it unless our consciousness is focused there. Just like there's a stove here, you'll see my deities, very nice. And somehow or other, there's birds that get caught in the stove. There's one in there now. And I'm an alien, not an earth person. So I have to get Mallory, who's an earth person, to get out the birds. I have no idea what to do when it comes to animals and land. But it bangs around in there. But I'm not hearing it always because I'm chanting, and sometimes I hear it, but the sound is always in the air. So it's focusing the consciousness, and you have to understand you can bring the consciousness to the Agya chakra, you can bring it to the ears, you can bring it to the tongue. Bhaktivedanta Goswami was telling me that it's recommended you bring the consciousness to the heart. So I'll combine a few things. I know some people found this hard, but I think this is effective because the life airs are connected to the mind. So breathing is important to connect to the mind. So I've done this before with you. You can chant either 2.5 out and 1/2 in, or 1.5 out and 1/2 in. And I was told, actually, it was interesting. My cousin, Maseva Bharti, she lives in the Himalayas, and she's her guru would stay up all night meditating and mantras, and I've heard this, that the concentration is stronger on the outward breath than the inward breath. So anyway, I'll just share how I do it. And you can do it or not do anything I recommend here. You can do it or not do it. We're just going to chant together. But Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Okay, chant at your own pace. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Krishna. Yeah, you can chant silently to yourselves, or just listen to me. I mentioned about the consciousness. So, and I also mentioned another principle that Bhaktivinoda Thakur taught in Bhajan Rahasya. He would put effort into different couplets of the holy name to bring his consciousness down to the platform of concentration. And once you bring it down in one place, it tends to stay there. So we're going to do that with just really concentrating on the first couplet of the holy name. And also to add that element of concentration, we're going to concentrate on pronouncing it, then we're going to concentrate on hearing it, then we're going to concentrate on feeling it. So let's chant first couplet, real concentrated, and meditate on our pronunciation of it. If you chant a mantra perfectly, you'll get the fruit of the mantra. So Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. At your own pace. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Okay. Now we're going to add one more thing. We're going to bring the consciousness to the ears. We're going to chant the first syllable, and we're going to concentrate on chanting it very, very sweetly. So we should hear the sweetness of our chanting, knowing that Krishna is hearing the same thing that we're hearing. And if we chant very sweetly, it'll be for his pleasure. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Very nicely. Now we'll bring the consciousness to the heart, and we'll concentrate on fixing us on that first syllable. But we'll listen now, not to the sweetness, but to the sincerity of our chanting, our heart, our voice in the chanting. Prabhupada said that, listen to the sincerity of your chanting and go deeper. The Yoga Sutra says, to japas artha bhavanam. Bhavanam, you dwell. To japas artha, on the artha, the meaning of your japa. And you're praying for a heart of service. And you may be praying for service itself. So I'll chant and then you can. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, 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 Hare Ram, Ram Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Ram Ram Hari 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 Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Hari Ram Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram 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 Hari Hari Hare Krishna 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 Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna 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 Hari Hari Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari Hari Krishna Krishna Hari Hari Ram Hari Hari Krishna Hari Hari Ram Hari Krishna Hari Ram Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Ram Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari Hari Ram Ram Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari 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 Ram Hari 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 Krishna Krishna Hari Hari Ram Hari Hari Krishna. Okay, this was really nice, and it's creative. I'm always coming. I like this way myself, that I fix the consciousness by concentrating on a syllable, concentrating on where my consciousness is in my body, and concentrating on what meaning I'm ascribing to the mantra. I think that really fixes one down. So let's see who we're doing here. Shamunajaya, you have share with us anything you got from today's class?
Yes, Haribol Maharaj, thank you for these sessions. They're very lovely. I just love them so much. One of the ones I really like today, when you said about really concentrating on the first syllable, Hare, and concentrating that. And so I was, in my mind, I was whispering Hare into Krishna's ear every time. It was like, here's the name of your beloved. And it really fixed, as you said, that first one really hooked the rest of it. So it was a really wonderful imagery. Hare Krishna into his ear that really fixed me quite well today.
I heard that from a sadhu in Vrindavan, actually. He said we should chant sweetly so Krishna hears. And as I said
So
before,
nice.
Different people alter the consciousness. Altering the consciousness means to come into concentration, ultimately in trance. And some people do it by the intelligence, some people do it by their heart, some people do it by their instincts. Okay, anybody else like to share anything?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Indira.
Yeah, hold on.
Hare Krishna. I think, I'm sure you have said this, and I'm sure I've heard it several times, but it finally clicked in my head that how Kali-yuga is the best yuga. And because normally you say, oh, well, it's Kali-yuga. This is why, this and this is happening. It's Kali-yuga. But to actually flip that and think, it's Kali-yuga. We are so fortunate. It's Kali-yuga. Like that flip was nice. It was a nicer way of thinking about it.
Right. In terms of the facility to be humble.
Yes.
And therefore we have a process that's so simple that people that are more competent in terms of jnana and discipline and things, they're not attracted to it. It's like an athlete, they want a challenge. So for us, it's a challenge. For some, just chanting the holy name, simply like that, chanting and dancing. And I always loved that story by Prabhupada. He gave a lecture about the 4 regulative principles, and it was so heavy. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meeting. So someone raises their hands and says, Swamiji, what do you do in your movement for recreation?
And Prabhupada said our movement is simply recreation. Chanting, dancing, and feasting. He said, you never see a picture of Krishna in the spiritual world wearing a construction helmet and smoking a cigarette. Okay, thank you, Indira. Anybody else like to say hello? Maybe Gail has a question. I guess she's not here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this is Hemalata Radha.
Haribo.
Haribo Maharaj, thank you so much for class. It was just wonderful. And I was thinking a little bit about what you mentioned about the senses. Like we have to gratify them enough, but thinking of like gratifying Krishna first. So we are pleased. Like I remember my days of like doing Buddhist meditation that you can't move, you can't do anything. And as I was meditating with the mantras, I had to scratch my head. And I was like, okay, if I was in Buddhist meditation, I would be thinking, no, you don't have to scratch. Oh, but it itches, it itches. So your attention goes there. Well, I just scratch it and then I can go back to the mantra.
That's a nice example. It's a simple example, but it's nice. Yeah. Regulation means that you get a certain amount to keep your mind peaceful, but not enough to distract it.
Right. Subtle.
Yeah. And we usually take advantage of any leeway we get and abuse it. But anyway.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, Haribo. Thank you, Hemalata. I'd like to see you there chanting and trying to use your yogic nature to kind of focus and concentrate. Okay, good. Thank you. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. This is Jai Shri Radha.
Haribo.
I just wanted to share with you that when you were saying that we need to engage our heart in prayer, for me particularly, it's easier if I think about someone that I'm praying for, then my heart gets engaged. For example, today is my father's birthday and he's far away from me. So when I'm praying about his wealth and his well-being, my heart getting engaged very easily and naturally in a prayer.
Good. That's a very, very nice realization, which also confirms how our thought processes, which in typical yoga would have to be annihilated, facilitates our concentration. Because thinking of the person doesn't distract us from the name. It makes us want to chant it with more sincerity. Thank you, Sri Radha. Okay, anybody else? So many nice realizations by everyone. Anybody else like to?
Maharaj, Malati.
Malati. Very well.
Thank you for class. I also, Hemalata Radha mentioned the same section that really inspired me about thinking of the senses in terms of pleasing Krishna. And it really spoke to me as a way to sort of inform all of my life choices, really. You know, what do I really, how much of this do I really need? And what really are my motivations? How is this really for Krishna? And so I appreciate that. I'm going to think a lot about that as I'm thinking about making some choices right now. And I also wanted to share and ask, you mentioned about when we're chanting, can we also think about Krishna at the same time? To get that right, you had asked that question. Yeah. And I had a particularly beautiful, deep meditation the other day that just came spontaneously. Most of my meditations lately have been, the breath meditation works well for me because I'm trying to just draw the mind back in and it really helps to settle things. So I've been kind of in that level, but suddenly spontaneously something came up and I felt like I went deeper. And I was thinking of Krishna in terms of the controller of the senses. And so I started while I was chanting, meditating on each sense as if I was in the forest of Vrindavan and Radha and Krishna are there. You know, you can feel the sun and the wind and the earth, the warmth of the earth. You can hear the peacocks, you can smell the roses. And it just took me so deep very quickly, I felt, into a place of like affection and love and like excitement for Krishna and Radha. And I just wanted to ask if you felt like that was.
I think it's great, you see, because first of all, when things come naturally from Krishna as gifts, we take them. And there are people who constantly, I spoke to this one person I know, they chant for 5 hours, young, only in their 30s, for 5 hours, all Krishna's pastimes. And their question was, I stop because I'm enjoying it too much and I'm afraid I'll get carried away. And I said, well, don't worry about it. But they meditate on the Astaka Lila Smaran, it comes naturally. But I think different people alter the consciousness in different ways. You're an artist, you can do it visually. And there are Buddhist meditations where they meditate on different things and parts of bodies of deities. And so I think it's okay. The proof is you became more absorbed in chanting. So I think, like I do that one chanting very sweetly. And, Jumanajaya said, like into Krishna's ear, someone meditated, every mantra is a flower to Krishna, offered at Krishna's lotus feet, So that's also very, very beautiful meditation. So I think the idea is we have to be attentive to chanting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Wonderful. Anybody else? I'm enjoying this class because the realizations that are coming shows that people are really absorbed in the class. They're all good. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, this is Krishnamrita. Thank you so much for the class. I was impressed when you said that the taste of chanting comes from nishtha, and this taste is love, is bhakti. And I also, it was strong for me when you told us to chant with sincerity. And I remembered all the time during all these weeks, I remember the first time when you told us to give petals of flowers to Krishna and Radha. Thank you, great.
Thank you, Krishnamrita. Great. Wonderful. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Yamuna Pavani here.
Oh, great to see you.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to chant with your guidance. It was such a nice, and when you were like some few weeks ago, it was really, my mind was wandering all around, and I have a collection of deity pictures on my phone, like 400 pictures of deities of various from everywhere. And somehow this thought came to my mind that I was chanting and I see that my mind is wandering, and I opened that album and I started scrolling through the pictures. And it was such a deep meditation. The deity started speaking to me, kind of, I could see the mood of one and another, and it was such a powerful experience. It was very...
You see, that's what's so nice, whatever works. The only difficulty is there are a lot of demons in that machine too that could come out.
No, I have a separate album for that. This is only deities.
Well, then that's good, because I'm afraid of that phone. I'm terrified of it during my japa. That bing, maybe someone loves me. Okay, when are you coming back to India?
Autumn. I'm not sure when yet, but in autumn sometime.
Is Ananta there yet?
He came, He came a few days back.
Okay, great. He's arriving coincidentally the same day I think I am.
Oh.
I'm going for Purushottam Mas. I'm just sitting here chanting. I might as well sit around by Govardhan. The only thing is Rasi Govinda is here, so my meals, I'm not sure about Govardhan. No, I'm just joking. I don't care. Well, I'm going to eat with Bhaktivedanta Goswami. I already spoke to him.
Yeah, okay. He's going to be there.
And it's good, Jamuna Parvati, since you did that service, you kind of know most of the people in the community. So that's great too.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you so much.
Anybody else like to say hello?
Okay, I'm looking at the nice list of people who have come to the class. That's great. Wonderful. Okay. I will go back to my chanting. Hare Krishna.